All right, we got Minnie the Body Shop girl with us today, and she is learning how to weld. Now, I'm gonna let her show you her welder. You wanna show everybody the welder you got?
You got it all covered.
Well, come on over, let's look at it. You got your hair covered up today. Why you got your hair covered up? Why is your hair covered up?
So you won't bitch at me, I guess, Pete.
No, so you don't start your hair on fire.
Exactly.
Now, you got a coat on. Can you tell everybody what that coat is?
It's a welding jacket.
That's a welding
Pete is
jacket.
making me wear.
That's right. But why are we wearing that?
Because Pete says his welder sparks more.
That's right, because we're not using 023 wire today. We're going to be using 030 or 35. And it sparks a lot more than a regular welder. Minnie the Body Shop girl, welder girl. What do we got over here, Minnie? Tell us about your welder. Talk loud, we got lawn mowing going on behind us.
Well, Pete, I really don't know much about it except that it does everything and it's pretty easy to use.
Okay, it's called a Multimatic.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a TIG welder, it's an arc welder, and of course, it's a MIG welder, all in one.
All in one.
Yeah, now, you want to get your helmet out, kind of give us a little example of what's going on with that? I know you know how to use that.
Well, you just put it on.
Okay. What do you got there?
It's
an auto dark helmet. Hello.
Yeah, it just works all by itself. You just put it on and it works.
All right, show everybody the little trick that we did with it. Now, on the back here, if we look inside, what did you put in there? Because you wear glasses.
Right, and Pete says you should not wear your glasses when you weld.
That's right.
So they make these little panels that are magnification panels. And they come in different strengths, so you can check them out and see which one works for your particular
Now, you found
size.
that 150 works for you. We went ahead and bought a 150 and a 200.
Right.
And they go all the way up to 300. So our buddy Norm saw that, and he was like, that was the Christmas morning for him when he found out you can do that.
Right.
Okay, so now you've welded a little bit, and you got the feeling of it. You're not a professional welder. With this welder here, it's a very nice welder, and you can weld very good with it. Am I correct?
I'm pretty good. Are
you feeling comfortable that you can weld?
Well, yeah, I guess.
All right, because we're not using that welder today.
I would not weld on a car that someone's life was.
All right, we're not going to weld any sheet metal, because what did I tell you the rule of thumb is?
Stand, you know.
What did I tell you rule of thumb is?
Oh, no.
The thinner the metal, the harder it is to weld.
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah. So we won't be doing any welding on any sheet metal stuff today like this car right here. But what we are going to do, go ahead and tell everybody what we're doing.
We're making welding tables.
We're going to go ahead and make some welding tables. Yes. Now, let's go ahead and check those out. We're going to show them from scratch how to build a welding table.
Right.
All right, if you want to go ahead and take a little break for a second, I'll go ahead and explain to them what the situation is.
Good, because I don't know what we're doing really.
Welcome to D.I.Y. Automotive School with my friend Pete and Minnie, the Body Shop girl. It's everything you need to know about cars and more.
Down here on the floor, we actually have two sheets, 5 foot wide, 6 foot long. Now that was one sheet actually, and they went ahead and cut that in half with a break. So we got two 5x6 sheets of 3/8 plate steel. Now each one of those plates weigh approximately 385 pounds. That's very heavy. That one full sheet of 5x12 cost $875. Now we need to make these welding tables because we got a special project coming up, and it's got to be precisely welded on a table that we're making, so everything is flush, flat, and in process, because it's kind of like an assembly line job. Now another thing that we purchased, we went ahead and bought all the steel to make these two tables. Now these are 20-foot strips of 4x4, and I believe that's 1/8 inch. No, that's not 1/8 inch. That's going to be the next size down. What size would that be?
14 gauge.
Now, how do you know that?
Because
we're not ever doing this. Now, can you go get your little gauge tool there?
Because I remember from
you remember that?
Gauge tool. That's how I know.
Bring that gauge tool over here. Let's see what we got.
It's not that I really know. It's just that I
okay.
know. I don't really
Bring your gauge tool over here. Minnie, the body shop girl, she's going to tell us. Now, she claims it's 14 gauge. Go ahead and stick your gauge tool.
You bent it when you stuck it under there.
Okay. All right, so you got your little gauge tool that came with your welder. Let's go ahead and tell us what gauge we're working with here, Minnie. The body welder girl. Welder woman.
I mean, Minnie. I don't know unless you check it.
Okay. Okay, so what gauge is that?
It's 1/8.
Okay, that's 1/8 gauge. Okay, so we're going with 1/8 gauge, not 14. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so we got some 1/8 gauge steel tubing here. Now, what Minnie's measuring, that's 4x4, which is 4 inch by 4 inch, and then we got a bunch of 2x4 inch.
Yeah, that's...
And that should be 1/8 gauge too.
No, that's 14.
So we got 14 gauge on that and 1/8 gauge on the... Okay. So you see how accurate you can be if you have the right tools to do the job for you. So we got 14 gauge 2x4 tubing. We got 1/8 gauge for our legs. Okay, another thing that we're going to be using is a chop saw. Chop saw is very important in a situation like this. And when you're cutting the 2x4 material, you got to have a new blade. Do you know why?
Nope.
Because 4x4, 4 inch by 4 inch is very thick. So when you got a blade such as this one, that's not going to go all the way and cut 4 inches. Do you see what I'm saying? You got to have a blade that's going to cut one time through, where you don't have to take it off and turn it around and cut again.
That makes really good sense.
All right, so you always keep a couple blades extra. The blades that we are going to use today are going to be 7/64. That's a 7/64. So when you cut your metal, you always want to make sure that you add 1/8 of an inch onto it. Now, another thing about cutting metal is that, let's say that we want to mark this at 4 inches, right?
Right.
All right, so we mark that at 4 inches. We make our line. Where would the 4 inches be? Right on the line, before the line, or after the line?
Depends on how you make the line.
It depends on, okay, you scribe it like that, and the 4 inches is down here. Depends on how thick your blade is. You see what I'm saying? And then where the 4 inches would be. So we know if we measure from here to here, that's 4 inches, and that would be on the inside of the line. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm trying to get at here is when you measure your metal out, and you got to make multiple pieces of the same size, and you're measuring each one out, always remember what side of the line that you're going to cut on. That's very, very important.
Yeah.
That's another thing about metal. If you throw it around, it gets very loud and irritates your helpers.
Yes.
Okay.
That makes them call you bad names.
All right, so our welding table is going to be 5x6, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring them up 41 inches. Now the reason we're going 41 inches is because we want to be able to stand at a nice level here where we'll be able to work without bending over. When you're doing a continuous weld job, you got two choices. You can make a table that sits low at standard issue height, and you can see kind of where Minnie's at. Can you kind of lean over like you were going to weld there?
It'd be perfect.
Okay, it'd be kind of perfect for you. But if you were going to stand there continuously, your arms and your back and shoulders would start hurting, because if you're really welding, you're going to be leaning over looking at that weld. Yes, there you go, like that. So we can always use a bench, okay? Go ahead and sit down on the bench. And that would actually bring us down to the level that we need to go welding. And now you got your back at the right position where your back won't hurt. So if we take our tape measure and we kind of stand where we're at, I'm looking at approximately 48 inches is going to be a nice welding table for us. We're going to go down to approximately 46 inches due to the fact that we might want to lean over when we're welding. When you're doing a lot of standing up and welding, and you're doing production line welding, or you might be making fence panels, or possibly just anything that is a big piece, you really don't want to have to lean over and put all your body weight on your back, because that's going to hurt. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and make our table 48 inches tall.
I thought you said 41.
Well, by the time we add all the steel to it, this, that, and the other, it's going to be 48. Now, we got one other thing that we need to look at is wheels. We're going to put wheels on our table to roll them around. We don't have any wheels, so what we're going to do, we're going to run over to Lowe's, get some wheels, and then we can go ahead and extract the measurement of the wheels. Do you see what I'm saying? And then that's going to tell us how big we're going to make it. Because if we made it 40 inches, by the time you add the wheels, it's going to bring it up here, then another 1/8 of an inch for the steel. All right, now you're up to about 56 inches. And we don't want it that tall because we don't want to be welding way up here, see? All right, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get over there and get our wheels and get back over here so we can make our table. Should I say tables? Okay, let me ask you something. Are you up for this job? Can I trust you to do a nice penetrating weld that's going to make it work properly?
I don't know, Pete. Okay. You're putting a lot of pressure on me.
Okay. Let's go ahead and check it out and see what we got.
That's an awful piece of metal to fall on.
That's a big piece of metal. So that's another thing that you need to look at is safety. If you don't weld it properly and you're leaning over that table, guess what's going to fall on your foot?
Exactly.
Okay. So you better start learning how to weld the right way. Look, you need those. Go ahead and put them on, okay? We went ahead and changed our blade out to a full-size blade. That's all set up and ready to go. Our tables are actually level. We don't have to mess with those. And then we actually went and got our hardware and our wheels, and I'm going to show you what these are for in a little while. But we got these wheels right here, which are called fulcrum wheels. Now what fulcrum material is, it's a real hard material, and it will never get a flat spot in them. So they were $13 a wheel. These are heavy-duty bearings. It's got the stop on the swivel wheels, and then of course you got your stationary wheels, which will be put in one end of the table, and then on the other end we will have, yeah, you got it, swivels. Alright, so if we want our table to be 41 inches tall, what we're going to have to do is we are going to have to measure our wheel from one end to the other, and then we're going to have to take that off the 41 inches. So what I got here is this tool right here. Everybody knows what it is. I don't give a shit what the name is. You've seen them before, and that's what we're going to use. I guess you would call it a square. We're going to set that on the table, and then we're going to go down to the, if I can get it, there it is right there. All right, and then we'll tighten that baby up. And then that's going to tell us that we need to take, how many inches off? Let's see here, that's going to be, okay, so we're going to take off approximately 6.5 inches. Yes, that's going to be 6.5 inches. So that wheel is 6.5 inches tall with a 3-inch wheel. This is a 3-inch wheel. Alright, we're going to take 6.5 off of our 41. That would actually give us 35 inches. And then by the time we add the wheels, it's going to bring it back up to 41. Alright, go ahead. Hold that in. So what we're doing here, we're cutting the legs off. We need 8 legs. Alright, how many is that? How many is that?
That's 8.
We got 8 of them? Alright. Let's get some lacquer thinner. We got to clean the ends of them off.
Alright.
Get a cup with some lacquer thinner. We need one of those throwaway towels we got, and we got to clean where we're going to be welding. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and weld our legs onto the table. So the next thing we need to do before we do any welding, we need to be able to place our legs where we want them. Now, we are not going to put our leg right in the very corner here. We want to keep approximately a 3-inch lip all the way around, 3 to 4 inches, and that's due to the fact that we want to be able to clamp onto the ends of that or whatever we need to do. So we're going to build our table inside the table, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to take this tool right here, and I'm going to go ahead and set this thing up for 3 inches. And I think 3 inches is more than enough. We'll go 4 inches. And then you always want to make sure that you use a good straight edge. And what this is for, this is just going to mark where we want our legs to be. So I'm going to take it. Are we in the right position here? Okay. I'm going to take it like this, and I'm just going to walk with it just like that. And then I'm going to come over here. And then I'm going to walk with it just like this. And then that is where our leg will sit. I'm going to do that on all 8 corners, and then we will begin to weld our legs to the table. Okay, what we're doing, I'm lining up our legs. If you look down here, you can see we got 4 inches all the way around. That's what you want when you're building a welding table. That way you can get some clamp action going. And what I'm doing here is I'm taking my level, and I see that this is way off here. It has to come way over here. And I also see that this has to go way over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Minnie get this all leveled up so I can weld one of the corners, and then from there we'll go ahead and balance it out. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tack one corner. Let's see which way we got to move it. Actually, if you can come over here and hold this, Minnie. You can hold it like right there, just like that. Got it? Right there. Hold on to it. Let me tack this corner. Okay. If you can push on it toward this way, push it. Hold it right there. This corner here. Last leg on this table lined up. Okay, so what the situation is actually we need to push the post this way, and I actually welded that corner up instead of this corner, so that's just a situation that happens. I'll cut that weld off right there, and then we'll tack weld this corner, and then that way we'll be able to push the post this way. Shit. How the fuck am I going to cut that off, man? Motherfucker. That won't even fucking reach in there. Fuck! Fuck, man! Motherfucker! So we'll go ahead and start that off at a different angle here. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to get it lined up like it's supposed to be. And now what we'll do is we're going to weld this corner right here. And then once we put the welder here, if Minnie can come over here and hold that, we can get that level. Watch the bubble, tell me when it's level. Push it this way.
Okay.
Right there?
Right there.
our tables that we're building, we got all 4 legs tack welded on. You want to look at that? All we did is tack weld them using 030 wire. You can see the same thing over here. We got them leveled out. The next thing we got to do is we're going to go ahead and make our first brace that goes in between our legs. And that's going to be sitting on the table. We're going to weld that to the legs on both sides. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and weld that to the table along with the legs. So we got a lot of welding to do. Let's go ahead and get these babies cut out, Minnie, and then we can start welding her up. Don't start at the top, you have to go down with it. Don't go up. You were doing it right, go back and forth and push down. Alright, so what we're doing now is, if you look real close, Minnie is actually welding the first braces. Now remember, these tables are upside down, so she's putting a brace from one leg to the other, welding it to the table and also to the legs, as you can see right there. And she's actually a pretty good welder. There's a welder, hers right there, I think we can get in on. And she's doing a pretty good job, she's just a little bit nervous. So we're putting the long braces from one leg to the other, lengthwise. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put one brace right in the center here. And then we'll probably put one on each end. So there'll be 3 braces going from side to side, and then 2 from end to end. Let's go look at Minnie's weld and see how she did.
Only show the good one. Only show the good one.
So she did a pretty good job here, and then she got a little bit erratical and she started moving too fast, and she needs to slow her weld down. When it starts spattering on you, you need to stop and start over. So that could be caused by several things. 1, dirty metal. 2, moving too fast. 3, your welder's too far away from the metal itself. So our welding table's coming along pretty good. Let's go ahead and get these on there. I'm going to cut the braces to go across, and it's very important when you're making a welding table that you have bracing underneath so your table doesn't warp while you're building it, or actually after you build it, when you're actually working on it. You can see by moving the legs in 4 inches on each one, you can see what it did for us. Gave us a nice lip all the way around it. We'll be able to clamp onto it. We'll be able to walk into it without hitting our knees on it, this, that, and the other. So that's a good angle right there, all in itself. Okay, so we got our legs. If you look down here, they're welded on pretty solid. We took turns welding it, and it came out all right. So what I'm doing here is, look at my foot when I, well, it ain't showing it now. When I step on that, this had a warp in it. Alright, it had like a little warp in it where if I turn it over, it would have had a dip. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do...
You think that's possible with that thick of steel?
Yes. I'm going to tell you why. Because when they bought this stuff, they picked it up with forklifts and it was moved around and stuff. So when they were driving with it, it was going wow, 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 okay, and flapping around. Remember when he picked it up with the forklifts and they were kind of buckling and stuff? Just because, you know, it's thick doesn't mean it's not flimsy. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this strap and I'm just pulling those legs in, and what that's doing is that's pulling that, and it's taking that bow out of that. Now look at it, see it's gone. And that's going to make sure that we're flat with each table. Alright, now what we got to do next is we have got to put some braces in here. We're going to put 3 on each one. So we're going to take our 2x4 metal steel, and why that's braced like that, I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one over here on this end. And then we're going to put one right in the middle. And then what that'll do, that'll brace that for weight compensation and also so the table won't warp when we're using it. Because it's already so heavy now, who really cares? Let's go over this little angle here. This is something I want everybody to see. I call these skid plates, okay? And I'm going to show you what they're good for. Some people might know. But if you notice, this is a 4x4 square tubing, and this is 4x4 here. So we're going to weld that right there. And we're going to make sure that this edge is facing out because we don't want this edge facing out. Why, Minnie?
Because it'll poke you?
It might hit our ankles, what have you. So we're going to go ahead and put that, and we might put it like this. Well, we can't do that. We're going to have to put them this way. The reason we're going to put them like that, okay. So what this is, I call them skid plates, and I'm going to show you what they're for. If I can find the wheel. Where's my wheel at?
In the box.
Okay. So remember now, we got 4 stationary wheels, and we also got 4 swivel wheels. But what this does is this will slide down in here like that. You see how that goes in there?
Yeah.
And then you take this bolt right here, and then it goes across here like this. And then of course it bolts on there like that.
Locks that in place so you don't have to weld it or bolt it.
So we don't have to weld it, we don't have to worry about bolting it. If these brackets break, we go buy a new wheel. You know, if the bearings on our swivel wheels breaks, okay, see there? If the bearings start falling out, we take that bolt out, and wham bam, thank you ma'am.
So it makes for easy replacement of your caster.
There you go, that's right. And we'll let Minnie the body shop girl weld those on.
Oh, that might not be a good idea.
Why not?
Burn a hole through it.
You ain't gonna burn a hole through it. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Now, I got chopping and cutting to do here. We need to get on the stick to get this going. Put the camera away. We got some braces we got to put in here. We're going to put 3 across here on each table. And then I think we should be done making our welding tables. I don't want to put anything in here because I want to leave these open. And the reason I want to leave those open is because when I'm sitting down on it or whatever, all right? So we need to get a brace in here. Bring it out. And then by the time we get our end braces on, we'll go ahead and put our braces down on the table itself, which will be the back side of the table once we flip it over. And then that thing should stay in place and secure and be very, very solid as far as being a flat welding table that we'll be able to use.
Thanks for watching D.I.Y. Automotive School. Classes don't stop till you know everything.